Hello and welcome to A Hero's World First. This is the Hero's World Book Club. And for our first book, we have decided to do a deep dive into Star Wars, Heir to the Empire, the Thrawn Trilogy from Timothy Zahn. Quite an amazing book. And on this journey, I have kind of, shall we say, hoodwinked or selected a couple of friends of mine who have never read it, but have also been really getting into Star Wars lately. So first up, I've got my good friend Jesse, who will be known as Jesse Rendar.
Hello, long-time watcher, first-time caster, I guess I'd say.
Yes, and this is your first dive into the Star Wars expanded universe lore?
Yes, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Perfect. All right. So next up, we have got another old school friend and fine customer of the store, Megan. Megan will be known as Megan Jin after Qui-Gon Jinn. So she is a fellow Jedi. How you doing tonight, Megan?
I am excellent. I'm very excited to get into this because I'm a huge nerd and I just got into Star Wars recently. So forgive me if I don't know a lot of stuff, but I make up for it with enthusiasm.
Nice. And you are probably the inspiration for this because you consumed almost everything Star Wars in the last, 6 months, basically? You just said, I'm in.
Yeah, it was aggressive. When I dive deep and fast. So That's what happened.
Okay, and this is your first Star Wars novel that you've read, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Awesome. All right. And last, but definitely not least, my good friend from public school, Scott. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for letting me join, Andre, as always.
All right. And Scott has got the Scott Solo nickname. So we all have our Star Wars nicknames. For those of you who don't know, when people talk to me about Star Wars, I go by R2-Dre2 because he's like my favorite Star Wars character. So the book we are discussing today, and this is part 1 of our book club series, is Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. This is the book that kicked off Star Wars novels in, I think it was 91. So this book goes way back. I remember picking this book up as a hardcover, I think it was maybe grade 8 or something. I don't remember exactly, but wow, that summer reading that book, geez, the Star Wars kid in me just nerded out. For those who haven't read it, we highly recommend it, everybody.
Oh, 100%.
100% so far. And if you do want to join us on this adventure, make sure you pick it up. This episode, we're only going to do the first 6 chapters, and it is going to be a spoiler-rific review. Okay, so this book is so old. Listen, we're going deep into it. We're going to discuss what we like, what we didn't like, what we saw coming, what we hope comes. This is, I think, my 5th time reading it, so I'll probably know a little bit more about these other guys, but I'm super excited to hear what you guys have to say as it being your first time reading this book and diving into the Star Wars expanded universe. So let's start with the first chapter. I'm going to go around, and I'm not going to go with Jesse Rendar first because he didn't want to go first. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to start with Scott. What was your first impression of the book?
Honestly, even just in that first chapter, and we had sort of passed this off a little bit back and forth when we were chatting, but this was literally, I think, the movie I would have want to seen next, right? It obviously picks up and carries off, and right away it sort of starts, you have to kind of figure out where you're at, in the timeline. But it pulls you in pretty quickly, but it kind of pulls you in from, I felt like the opposite side, right? Because you start off with sort of the bad guys, the big bad evil guy, which was weird because I was always sort of I like the good guys, right? I wanted the good guys to win, but what I noticed was it pulled me in, and I have a lot of empathy and sort of I kind of like the bad guys. I've grown to kind of I feel for them.
Yep. And it's kind of ironic because you say that the opening chapter does deal with the Empire. That's the first thing we see. But do we all remember the opening scene of Star Wars New Hope with the Imperial Star Destroyer, big, and then chasing the blockade runner? So there's a lot of familiar vibes and imagery that this series picks up. All right, so Megan, what was your first impression of the book when you started reading it?
Same with Scott. Like, I was really excited about how it sucked me in so quickly, because since I had consumed all the Star Wars stuff very quickly, I had like firmly cemented myself in the, okay, I'm with the Resistance. Like, I'm part of the Resistance. If somebody asks me to join, I'm there right away. And then because it started from that perspective, I was like, wait a minute. And I had to sort of shift everything. And I started to see things like from his perspective, from that guy's perspective.
You can say the name. It's not like Candyman.
Oh my God, no, that's scary. But like, it was really interesting because like the first character that we meet is Palian. I don't know how to say his name. Yeah. Okay. Exactly, so him. Right.
Yep.
And I thought that was really, really cool because he seemed to like almost relish the old empire and like wanted to sort of uphold it and kind of look down on the people that didn't sort of understand, like the other officers or the other lieutenants or whatever on the ship. But then he was also always surprised by Thrawn, which I thought was really interesting, and how like Thrawn interacted with different situations and stuff. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I was very excited.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Jesse, and your first impressions of the novel.
I wanted to jump in head first, which I did. I knew Thrawn from Rebels, so I knew the Thrawn trilogy was going to be heavily with Thrawn. Now, it's a very different Thrawn from the Rebels Thrawn. We're allowed to say his name, right? Thrawn?
Of course.
Yes. Yeah, I guess it's the chapter.
Yeah. Spoiler.
Is that him?
Yeah. Is that him?
He's the blue guy, right?
Yeah.
Now, with Paleon and Thrawn, I kind of got a relationship kind of like a Sherlock Holmes and Watson. Watson being Paleon and Sherlock being Thrawn. Thrawn seems in that first chapter so intelligent that I would compare him to Sherlock Holmes. And Paleon's the Watson. He's by the book. He's military. I think he yells at a young cadet.
Yep.
Yeah.
So from the first get-go, I was fully invested. I think the last sentence of the first chapter set the tone for the whole book, and it's Thrawn. He's talking, and he says, "I'm going to cause the complete and utter destruction of the rebellion." And from that point, I was like, "Okay, giddy up, let's go."
Yeah.
Chapter 2.
Awesome. Yeah. Chapter 2, let's do it. So isn't it actually kind of amazing that, like, in that first chapter, they basically set the whole tone. You have the description of the Empire, and you've got Paleon saying, "Hey, I don't like these young officers. They're not by the book. They're not this." And it's 5 years after the defeat, and the Empire is losing ground, yet Thrawn still refers to them as the rebellion. I'm going to crush this. So there's no admitting defeat at this point. So that does really set the stage. All right. So what did you think of Chapter 1? I guess everybody gave their impressions and their impressions of Thrawn. Jesse, I really like that comparison. I think it's really good. From the first the starting of the book, what did you like? As I've basically put it as, it's setting the stage, and they give us a lot of things that are familiar but different at the same time. Did you guys also find that?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I'm just gonna jump in.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It was just thrown out there. Yep.
Yeah, no, it was like Jesse, like you were saying, like Sherlock and Watson. It kind of felt like Thrawn was playing chess, and everybody else was like, "How do I checkers?" You know, like he was like setting everything up, and everybody's like, "This is my piece." Yeah. You know, and like I thought that was really, really cool, and you could tell that he just had a much more analytical mind in this book than I think like in Rebels, where he appreciated art and stuff, but it was just like, I like art. It's cool. It teaches me about civilization. But in this, he's like, this is why I know their military tactics because of this. And I thought that was really interesting, like the shift from just an appreciator to an analyst, and then using all of that information to sort of do crazy things that, I thought it was cool.
I appreciated Paleon because he's like, you could feel like the deep sighs and the eye rolling he was probably doing, like when that guy shouts down to him and he's like, oh God, that's not how we do it. Right. So, and he kind of pulled, a little passive aggressive stunt, right? Like he just like ignored him, and I've done that too, right? Like at work, like someone says something, I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to ignore that and keep going. And then make them walk all the way down and around and to kind of make your point. Right. Like, but there was a lot of that, like you could feel like the, like, well, this is what I got to work with. Like youngsters. Although it feels to me, and I know it's not, but like I feel like this like cruiser is like the last bit of the Empire, right? Like it almost feels like it because obviously they're focused on it, but I feel like this is like their last ship, but like it's like the best ship and it's going to totally rock it, right? Like, and I know they have other fleets or other things, but this feels like the last bastion, right? Like this is it, but it's like you get the sense that it's gonna happen. Like they're gonna make it work, which is kind of cool. Like again, it's the bad guys, right? But like I'm like, they're gonna get this rolling, man. It's gonna be kind of fun to watch.
Well, for sure. Like on that command deck, I would not want to be around there. The environment seems so tense with Paleon, and I guess Thrawn never made his appearance in the command deck. He was in his secondary command room, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
His tactical theater, the tactical center. Yep.
Which I really enjoyed that part too, because all the other admirals had like a leisure room, right? So they would have games and stuff like that. But he chose to put another bridge down there with a whole bunch of art, statues. They're holograms, but that's the type of character he is. He's going to always study his craft. He's not going to, his leisure is studying tactics.
I was going to say, that's his fun, right? Like that's his, like, he's got his art and then he's got like his war games, right? Like that's his fun.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And I think they mentioned this in chapter 1. And I guess this is one of those things in Star Wars that is said, but maybe kind of glossed over, and maybe you don't notice it or you attribute it to the time when the films came out. But the Emperor is totally xenophobic. So when you see the Empire, there's no aliens, there's no alien stormtroopers, there's no alien races, but they call Thrawn, he is given the title of Grand Admiral Warlord of the Empire, and they specifically come out and say he's the only alien to reach that rank of Grand Admiral, and that was by the Emperor himself. So it's one of those things where you just like, hey, once you start thinking about it, you realize, we've never seen an alien in Star Wars in a rank or in the Empire period. Maybe there was an Ugnaught cleaner, sweeping a Death Star somewhere and stuff like that, but we have never seen it. So again, an instantly new thing. We've seen the white military uniform in the first movie, right? But now we see somebody else, but he's got that striking, appearance and how intense that the description is. So I really like that those moments are, I think Timothy Zahn, the author, he's looking at the movies and that's his source material. And he's going back and forth with Lucas licensing and their division to put things in that he's allowed to. So everything he did was he had to be like, is this okay? And then they would come back and say yes or no or change it. So it was this really big collaboration. But every chapter that we get to read in the first 6 so far that we're discussing, there's always an element of the familiar, yet somehow it's different. And I think one of the things that should also be brought up is that this book comes out 8 years after Return of the Jedi. And in that period, we have had literally no other Star Wars stuff. There was a couple like those holiday specials, but nothing that tackled Star Wars in this. And as Scott said, this is the sequel to Return of the Jedi, you know, and it says it's 5 years after Jedi, so it's
except it wasn't
pretty cool, huh?
Except it wasn't.
Okay,
Right?
so,
Like,
unfortunately,
you know,
they
you know, Andre, when I was reading that, and you brought it up too, when you talk about like how you never saw the alien, you know, no aliens, it made me think back to when they hired the bounty hunters and they were all on the Star Destroyer, and the disdain that they had for having all the different bounty hunters up there. They were
scum. That's what they said, right?
Right. Yeah, so, and that made me think. I'm like, God, you're right. Like they're all like, I mean, they all look like me, right? They're all old white dudes,
but they have English accents, so that makes it all right.
That makes it okay.
So, all right. So, chapter 1. Did you guys? Anybody have a favorite moment in that chapter? Something that stands out.
I like the passive aggressive move, man. I just that was my
like go-to, yeah.
Like I'm gonna make this guy walk all the way down here and tell me that resonated.
Yeah.
Was this the chapter where Palian describes the downfall of the Executor, and he was saying how if Thrawn was involved, it would have ended a lot differently?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite part because it just shows how menacing, how cold, how calculated Thrawn is. He's going to stop at no cost to squish the rebellion.
Yeah,
for sure. I liked when they introduced Rook.
Yep.
Rook, him. Because I was like, oh yeah, I remember him. He was crazy, ran like a dog and would smell things. And I was like, damn, that's terrifying. If there's like a whole race of those that are just sort of under the control of everything, and like, you don't want to be on the wrong end of those alien eyes.
So that's one of those things. So, you know, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. If anybody's doesn't know me or what, and as a person who consumed and read and enjoyed, I've got to say probably 80% of these novels, these expanded universe novels, that was one of the reasons that I really loved Rebels, because I really felt that the team that put Rebels together, they were going through those novels and cherry picking what they could take out. So before this, when Disney annexed all of the expanded universe stuff, Thrawn was gone, Rook was gone, all of this stuff was gone. But then once it appeared in Rebels or Clone Wars, it all of a sudden is canon. And even though it's not the same Thrawn, it was nice that some of the stuff came alive again, I guess, for me, because I'll tell you, it was a very very sad day when Disney sent out that letter saying, oh, we're calling it Legends and we're not continuing it. And they're like, what ifs? You can still enjoy them. We're still going to publish them, but they don't count. And it was kind of like, I don't care that they don't count, but you can continue the story. You know, have the books for the people who love the books and have the movie. So, so that was kind of a sad day for me in Star Wars land. Still kind of is. I'm still a little bitter. but hey, here we are, and I get to discuss it with some friends. All right, so on to Chapter 2. And Chapter 2 is the introduction of old friends and old heroes. It starts and it brings us Luke Skywalker. He's the first part that we see. So I'm going to start with you this time, Jesse. What did you like about Chapter 2 and its pacing and stuff?
I like catching up with all the characters after 5 years. Mm-hmm. Luke seems to be depressed about what's happened in his past. Leia is, I would say, going crazy. She's pregnant. She's trying to start up the New Republic, and Han is trying to put together a smuggling ring that aren't smugglers anymore, but they're working legitimately for the New Republic.
It's the big sell.
But my favorite part was the Lando drink. The reveal of the Lando drink.
Yes.
Which I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read the book, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that was a cool moment. That was a cool moment.
By far the best part.
Yeah,
the whole book.
Yeah, I remember the whole book. Yeah.
Oh, come on. It was cool, but it wasn't. So, Megan, was this when we were introduced back to these characters, how did they feel to you? Like was it a logical transition to be like, oh yeah, this is how they would be if this was
Yeah.
after Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, it was it seemed like the perfect continuation. Like it wasn't like, oh, that's not how I would write them. It was, oh, this is fantastic. Like this is Luke, this is Leia, this is Han, this is 3PO. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Like when Luke was talking to 3PO about, oh, Ben Kenobi and how he misses him, and then 3PO said, oh, he was always very kind to me. So I'm a nerd about Harry Potter as well.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of when Dumbledore is talking about the house elves and how they don't see good versus evil. They see kindness and like not kindness, essentially. And so I thought that was really interesting because when you think about all the droids that are involved in this whole thing, they're basically just following the orders of their masters. But then the ones that really care, like R2D2 and C3PO, they're the ones that are invested in their masters and not just following orders, but they're doing it because they actually care about these humans. And I thought that was really exactly, yeah. And I thought that was really cool to sort of humanize them in a way that wasn't so like on the nose. It was more just like slipping it in a little bit. So I thought that was neat. Yeah.
All right, Scott, what did you think of the reintroduction of our heroes?
I was gonna say I agree with Jesse. It was like a welcome back part. It was like a big warm hug. Like it really felt good. It kind of threw me a little bit because the way it starts, it's like you get that like Luke and like that sort of. I mean, it is a Ben interaction, right? And then he kind of poof, like and
yeah.
And that's still I've still I guess we're only in chapter 2 right now, and obviously spoiler alert, I've finished the book at this point, but like I'm still hanging on that. Like it's been bugging me the whole book. Like so like that was like a little it left me a little wanting because I just don't know where it's going. But like getting Han and Chewie back, like that's just like a whole bunch of goodness and I really like and we kind of mentioned this already, but like the writing, but also like what I like about the book is you can kind of get in their head a little bit. Like the actors, you get their lines, you get their facial expressions or whatever, but like you actually get to see what they're thinking in the book.
Yes.
And I think the writing, like really, I think it's on par. Like it seems very consistent with what I would have expected based on what I got out of Harrison Ford and everybody, right? Like it's good. It like I said, it was a big warm hug.
I think that's exactly it. I think the best thing about this book is that he nails every character, every piece of dialogue, every thought process that comes out are the characters. Like, so let's talk a little bit about Luke. Like, I really like this introduction because in a way, like I said, I think Zahn, what he's doing in the first 3 chapters is he's like, hey, I want to show people that this is the Star Wars that they've seen. Mm-hmm. So but this is the theme is going to be the familiar yet different. So we have Luke and he has a dream and he's dreaming of Ben. Again, we start thinking back to all those things we know about him and the Force Ghost and everything. And it's, again, the first time we meet Luke in A New Hope, he's a somber guy. He's like, oh, I can't go away with my friends. And in this, he's somber and he reflects about feeling like an orphan again. And upon reading this, it just gut punched me, and stuff. And you almost get that, even though he's surrounded by people that love him, like Leia and Han and stuff, and obviously the whole galaxy for saving them, he still has that feeling of not abandonment, but being alone. And I think that was just, it ties it right back to the movies. You get into his mindset. So it was just so cool. And that Obi-Wan moment, the whole conversation, I kept hearing Alec Guinness's voice, and I was just like, when he says to Luke, and I had to write it down, he's like, you're not the last Jedi. You're the first of the new. Yeah. And goddamn, like, I just love that came so early in the book, and it's one of my all-time favorite lines because it's what kind of the whole expanded universe for me was Luke reinventing what it means to be a Jedi. and it was just, again, the fact that Zahn was, and I don't know, maybe obviously his editor and all, and Lucas, you know, they probably did these things, but it just hits so well, and I just feel it and love it, and this goes through all of those books, is like Luke trying to reestablish the order. And could you imagine, like, I'm gonna give this one to Scott. Scott, could you imagine training a new team of doctors and you have no material at all? You know, it's like, hey, somebody showed me this, now I have to train a whole bunch of and it's just me. How do I do it? And it's like, you're gonna make mistakes, you don't know where to look and all that stuff. So all of that, but again, it's just such a really cool line, and it brings it to the Force. You know,
Andre, in the medical field, we call that July. that's the beginning of the new academic year.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I know
so that's when
TV.
you get the rookies, right? So it brings us to the Force, and all of that was with the Force. And another one of my favorite lines from Empire Strikes Back was when Luke decides to go and help his friends, and Yoda says, no, there is another. And that is such a powerful line, because it means that if somehow Luke fails, there's another, and we know that to be Leia, and Yoda's insinuating that she is as powerful as Luke. She has that potential. So once they mention Leia reaching out with the Force and learning the Force, I remember myself just being like, oh my God, there's going to be more than one Jedi. We've never seen more than one Jedi, because this is like, what, 13 or 14-year-old Andre reading this, you know. And when this came out, there was no other, like, we hadn't seen any other Jedi. We didn't have the prequels, we didn't have the sequels, we didn't have the video games and the comic books and stuff. So all of a sudden, this just gives us, you know, if you can kind of imagine what it would have been like to read that for the first time, you know, you're just like, whoa, mind blown, you know.
I just realized that too. Like, we're so spoiled with everything that we've already consumed, right? And they're tapping from these Legends books, stuff that you guys witnessed for the first time, Andre. Like, we knew that Leia was going to be a Jedi from what was it, number 9? Number
8 or 9, yeah.
Number 8 or 9. So we already knew that Leia was being set up to be a Jedi, but you reading it for the first time, that must have been something else.
It was fantastic, because again, it's going back to, you know, something that we knew, the familiar, yet now it's new. Now we know what it's going to be, right? And even like just how they set up everything. I don't know how many iterations of this book or drafts or whatever, but what we get is picture perfect, slotted in order, just right. Like, I don't know about you guys, but there's not one part of this book that I would be like, oh, that should have happened earlier, or that should have happened later, or I didn't like how that happened, you know. Because sometimes you read a book and you're like, oh, hold on, let's see how they, but this, it just, there's such a great flow, and he captures that feeling of Star Wars so well. And remember, he's only working from 4, 5, and 6 at that time, so it's huge. So I've rambled a lot. Let's what did you guys think of the reveal of the twins? Because maybe you guys hadn't heard of the Solo twins.
I had to Google.
There's sex in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
I already knew about the twins from other Star Wars stuff I've consumed, so I knew there was going to be 2 twins. So I saw it coming.
Okay.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, twins? And I put a sticky note and I was like, huh? I was very confused. And so I Googled, and then I read all about the twins. And I was like, dude, that's so freaking sick. Yeah. Because, I mean, it makes sense. Twins to twins. Yep. They're genetic, right? Or whatever. But no, that was really cool. I definitely had to Google, and I was like, wait, which twins are they? Because I knew that like Ben was like a child, and then was he one of the, and that I was very confused. I'm like, wait, did he kill his sister or something? Yeah. So I had to like do a lot of research.
You went down the rabbit hole.
Wikipedia was your friend. Yeah.
Yeah. It was Wikipedia, actually.
Yes,
Wikipedia. It is Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Well, you know, because I started I started doing that too. And Andre brought up a good point. He's like, if you were reading this in 91, he's like, this was new to everyone, right? So yes, it's been built in, but when you get into, like we get into the couple of next chapters about some of the animals and how they manipulate the force a little bit, like nobody knew about that, and so I'm like, what is this thing? And I'm Googling it, and Andre's like, hey, like, relax. Like, nobody knew about this in 91. Just read it. And I stopped Wikipedia, wherever you are, you're great. But like, because I was just like, let me just enjoy it. And I'm sure they'll explain it at some point, and eventually they get there. So,
and eventually they do. Yeah. So, we mentioned the Han Solo. I thought, again, perfect setting. Put him back in the cantina where we first meet him. Again, like, how much better can bringing these characters back be? Like, is perfect too strong a word for this for this chapter?
No, I don't think so. Like, I heard the music. I heard the music in my head as I was reading. I was like, "Dang, this is a bop!" But yeah, I was very excited to see him back, and I started picturing those scenes because, again, I had just watched them. I was like,
yeah.
Hear
the
Walrus Man. Where was Walrus Man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but the one thing I do want to make sure people don't think that this book so far is just all a nostalgia fest. We did have some new characters introduced, and I think for me, the most interesting of those characters was Winter. What did you guys think of her?
I don't trust her. She seems too close to everything to be trustworthy, but that just might be me.
Okay.
But it was cool how she can remember practically everything. I was reading it the first time, and I was like, is she a droid of some sort? Like, because the way it's written is like she records every conversation. So I was like, is she a droid? Did it come up that she's a droid and I just missed it? But no, she's a human, I guess you'd say.
Yep.
Any other? Rubbed me the wrong way. I don't, but I can't tell you why. Like, not that she's necessarily like bad or evil or sneaky, or maybe I just like, it would drive me crazy to have someone all up in my business like that. Like, and like, I'm kind of like leave me alone, like, just let me do my thing. And it's like, all of a sudden she's like, runs in the room. Like, what's wrong? What's going on? Are you okay? Like, but dude, I'm trying to sleep. Leave me alone.
Again, Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I was.
Oh no, I just so she just I was just like kind of almost annoyed.
Okay, Megan.
Yeah, for me, I just thought it was like, I thought it was really cool that she could remember everything, and like, I'm very jealous of that because then I'd be a genius, and probably have more money than I do right now. But I was, it just it made me think of like Padme and then her helper ladies. Who just like took their spots all the time, and I was like, oh, there's just another one. Like, I didn't really dive too deeply into her, but she annoyed me too. I would be very annoyed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the thing I liked about when they introduced her, I really like that idea of where, if you were a royal person, you would want someone to be your aide, and what a great ability. But I also like that we are now seeing a side of Leia that we never really saw before. She was Alderaanian royalty, so she would have had, and they even said that people would mix them up because Winter was so graceful and beautiful that people mistook her. And I'm like, yo, we haven't, like, it's almost like Leia, she used her rank or her status for her political rank, but you never really saw her as, oh, I'm a princess, I'm a frilly princess or whatever. But now you're like, oh, she actually had a playmate or a best friend that she had to be around. So I kind of liked that, and I felt that it really fit. So I did really dig her character, and I like your guys' takes on it. It's actually different, but you guys all had the same thing. Maybe we'll put a pin in that and come back to it.
She seems suspicious.
I feel like she comes back and makes a play for something. I don't know
something.
What,
all right. Okay, so boom, we're on to chapter 3. So the first part, we start with the Empire. Boom, we're comfortable with chapter 2. We got our old friends. And what does chapter 3 bring us? Chapter 3 brings us everything old is new again, instantly, with brand new characters. We have Talon Karrde, and Mara Jade. So who wants to give their first impressions of both of those characters? Who wants to go first?
I can start.
All right.
I was obsessed with Mara. Like, as soon as she came in, I was like, yes, you're my girl. Let's go. Like, she was like, you asked me to join you for dinner. And like, what is this? This is not dinner. Like, what is this? And I thought that was really cool how she just called him out right away. So like, there was no, like, I don't know what the word is, but no uncertainty about what the relationship was. And I thought that was really neat that she set the tone right away, so that we weren't thinking like, are they, will they, won't they? That wasn't even a thing.
That wasn't the thing.
And I thought that was really cool, because usually in books, you know, as soon as there's like a man and a woman, or a male and female character, usually in like superior and like subservient position, it's like the woman's like fawning over the dude, right? And so I really liked that in this case they immediately set it up as, no, this isn't the thing. He's training her and she has a lot of skills, you just don't know what they are yet. And I thought that was really neat. So
she comes across as a very strong character from the get-go, right? And I can't wait to see what she does in the future, later on in this book, and then next one. Hopefully she sticks around for quite a bit.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in that one too.
Okay. Sorry.
You know, and obviously, you know, we kind of know some of the stuff that happens, but like, even just based on this chapter, if I was drafting like my Star Wars team, you know, nostalgia would probably pull me to like a Luke or a Han, but like, I'd probably draft her first. She seems kind of like a badass.
Yep. So I want to put something on the screen here that's going to be it's not spoiler for the book, but again, the book's been out. So this is the one image on the internet that makes me think of Mara Jade. It's the only one. So many people do drawings, so many people do cosplay and everything and stuff, but I want to show you guys my favorite image of her, and it's a little bit spoilery, but again, we're talking about a book that's how many years old, so I got to show you this, and I want you guys to tell me if this is how you also pictured her, or am I just off my rocker?
Dang. Yeah, I'm drafting her first for my team. That's what's happening.
Like, I just love the facial features. Like, this is a woman that's all business, and right when you meet her, she's like, yeah, I've got the skills, I don't need you. And oh, okay, you want to promote me? Okay, this is what that's about. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I have a lot of ideas on the shit you guys are doing wrong. Like, I love that. Could you imagine your boss calls you in and says, I want to train you? Like, okay, good, because this is how we should be doing stuff. I'm like, oh, she is just like, this is amazing, right? So great first impression for her. But what about Talon Karrde? What did you guys think of him?
I was suspicious of him too, just because of his background with the smuggling ring.
Yep.
He seemed very sly. Near the end, can we talk about the end of the chapter?
Oh yeah, for sure. We're talking about our impressions of the character. Yeah.
So at the end of the chapter, he has a conversation with Palian, right? It was Palian.
Yep.
And the way he communicates with him, it just seems like he's up to no good. It seems like he's always out for himself, and this is one step how he can get what he wants. Right? He seems very sly.
Yep. Slick,
sly,
smooth. He's slick.
So, yeah. Says all the right words at the right time, and
yep.
Again, Mara Jade sees right through that too, right? That's another reason why she's so strong of a character.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that he's like trained almost to do that in order to survive, because he's essentially tried to establish himself as like a businessman in some way. And in order to do that successfully, you have to be able to like be political almost. And I think he's really, really good at giving enough information, but then withholding enough so that he still thinks that he's holding the cards, like,
he's got
close
a
to
card,
his chest. Yeah. Exactly. Like he like, you don't know his full hand, right? And I thought that was cool. But yeah, for sure sneaky, but I think that's like learned survival instincts.
Yeah, you know, I was wondering, obviously, if you read the back of the book even enough, like, who sort of the big bads are, right? Like, but when I was reading the chapter, I'm like, is this going to be like the surprise bad guy? Like, is he going to do this? Right. Like, or like how big of a role will he play? So, it was intriguing. I was intrigued by the character for sure. I'm still thrown by that picture because now I'm like, oh man, I like her even more now because she's like she's sort of like total badass. Like, so, like now I'm thinking through all the scenes now of all the, all the chapters she's in using that picture. I'm like, that wasn't what I was picturing, but like that was way better than what I was picturing.
Yeah. So, when I first, I remember thinking for Talon, I remember thinking, is this guy Han Solo if he was serious, and he built this empire? And then I started thinking, and I'm going to ask you guys if you agree, like, is there almost comparison between you've got Thrawn, who is the ultimate strategist, but then you have this guy who is a quasi manipulator, right? So I felt that there's a little bit of a parallel with the two of them, just how they were building up and describing them. So I thought that was very, very cool. So last part of this chapter, we learn what one of Karide's motivations is. He wants to get more information out of the mysterious Mara Jade. So when you guys read that, that he basically has Talon figures out that Mara Jade has a hate on for Luke Skywalker, and he's trying to figure out why that is. So what were you guys thinking in your head? Like, why did she, in your minds, what were you guys kind of piecing together of why she could possibly hate Luke Skywalker? If you guys hadn't Googled it or Wikipedia'd it.
I really didn't know. I didn't Wikipedia it. I didn't Google it. I was intrigued. Yep. I wanted to find out why Mara Jade hated Luke so badly. Yeah. I
was gonna say, like, as a just thinking about, like, in a typical story, I thought there must be some sort of collateral damage story, right? Like somebody did something that they didn't intend, but like she took it as personal and is all in. But I didn't know what it was.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So at this point, we're 3 chapters in. What do you think of Zahn's writing style? Does he paint? Does his words do a good job painting the picture, or do you think he relies too much on the visual imagery that we already have had from the movies?
I'm loving his writing, like we just talked about with the Mara Jade thing. That was a cliffhanger. It made me want to read more and get to that chapter where I discovered what she actually was all about. So I read 100 pages in one day of this book, and I've never done that before. I just couldn't put it down. I was flying through it. He wants to propel me to read more, to find out what his story is about. And I love how he has a different voice for every character. It seems like Han's actually thinking. It seems like Luke's actually thinking. It seems like Leia's actually thinking.
Yeah, so I completely agree. Yeah. I like the amount of detail that went into everything. Like, even if I hadn't watched the Star Wars movies, I would have enjoyed being able to even just draw my own images from the details that he used. And that's what I love so much about Star Wars, is that it's just so immersive. And I thought that he did a great job of continuing that immersion, even though it's written. So I thoroughly enjoy his writing style so far. And like Jesse said, like every single character had their own sort of like spin, their own voice that was very significant and very specific. And I think like that's incredibly hard to do as a writer. And I think he did a fantastic job. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I mean, you can obviously rely on, what we've all seen for the main characters, right? And you're not going to get, Mark Hamill out of your head when you're thinking about Luke Skywalker. It's just not going to happen. And I don't think he tried to change anything, right? I think he stayed with that. But like with the new characters, like I was just looking, like, did he ever really describe Mara Jade? And I was looking here, there's like a line in here, something about her, she shrugged, her red gold hair shimmering with the movement. He drops little nuggets in there about what they look like. So like, I don't think she looked like that picture that you showed, but like I was able to put together sort of my own picture enough where I was comfortable thinking, yeah, she's probably tough and a badass, and right, like, but he didn't like force feed it, right?
Yes.
But I think he gave you enough nuggets to get a good idea of what the settings looked like, what the new people look like. So I liked it.
Definitely. And I think the one thing that I really love about his descriptions are when he talks about the characters, he uses a lot of the description of their facial tics and their facial movements. And I think that brings it, because all of a sudden you can understand, because you do those yourself. He's just like, he squints in anger or this or that, the look in the eyes and stuff. So I think that, I don't know how he does it, but you're absolutely right, Scott. There's not a ton of actual description, but everything, and you've got this picture painted with the words. So yeah, I think that's it. He's for you guys that might be listening to this and tuning us in and enjoying the conversation. Yeah, you definitely have to read or give this guy a try, because the description makes you not only hear the soundtrack and the score, but puts you into these places that allow you to then have a picture of a character that you had never seen before. And even though now there's a lot of imagery of it, this is where it all came from. This was the description. This was like the Chiss, who Thrawn is a member, that's created by Timothy Zahn and these and again the editors. So there's so much stuff that he is credited with. I think we might have talked about this before in our chats. Is he created Coruscant? So everybody might be thinking, "Oh, that's nothing, whatever." No, that was the first time the Galactic Center was Coruscant. And if you remember that description that it used, it's like Luke is standing on the on his balcony, and he's out looking at the mountains. Yeah, well, now that we see Coruscant, there's no mountains to be had. It's a planet city, right? But again, that's where it came from. It's the jewel of the galaxy and stuff. And there's so many things that he actually collaborated with to create that gets used in the prequels, and then like we've talked about Rebels and other stuff. So it's very, very cool. So yeah, I'm glad you guys are enjoying his writing, because I think that's one of the things that really make this I'm going to call it the definitive Star Wars trilogy. If you're ever going to read only one set of Star Wars books, this is the one to read. And the flip side is, if you enjoy this at any level, there's another two trilogy, or not trilogies, but I think there's another 4 books that he does that directly follow this. So we'll see how deep down the rabbit hole you guys want to follow. So let's dive to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is where I think we really start seeing the plot thickens, and we start getting, hey, what's going on, and Thrawn starts unveiling his hand. So a couple of things that we see here. We get a brand new term that we hadn't heard up until this point as Star Wars people. Again, you would have heard it obviously because it's now, but the Dark Jedi. When you guys read that, what went through your mind? I'll start with Jesse, since he's
I thought Sith, but not as much Sith, like redeemable Sith, I guess you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't gone too far to the dark side yet. They've got qualities that a Jedi would have, but they use it for self-gain.
Okay, cool. Megan?
Yeah, same. Like I thought of like Jedi that were trained in the Jedi arts and all that stuff, and then sort of fell off their path somewhere. So not Sith, but not all good, just kind of confused and sort of doing what they think they need to do in order to survive, and not really thinking about the universe or all the other people that Jedi think about. I think they were just more focused on themselves. So yeah,
Okay.
definitely just like self-gain kind of thing.
Very cool. Scott, same thing?
What came to mind was I was thinking like if Luke had become a henchman for Darth Vader, that's what my picture of a dark Jedi was. If he had like just turned and said, "Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go to the dark side," and then start down the path. So I guess it's similar.
Right. So not full on Sith, definitely, because Sith has a lot of different connotations, right? So I want to give everybody an interesting fact about this. There's a annotated, I think, 20th or 25th anniversary hardcover of this book, Heir to the Empire, that's available, and in that he describes why he could not use the word Sith and had to come up with a new term, because when he said, he's like, we knew the term Sith from the prequels, not the prequels, sorry, from the originals, but when he said he wanted to use that, it came back as no, George is going to handle that. So could you imagine trying to write Star Wars, come up with a bad guy, and you can't use the bad guy term, right? So then he's like, okay, what powers can I show? And he'd be writing down powers and be like, no, you can't do that. So, what can I call this guy? And he had a whole list of different things, and then they finally back and forth settled on Dark Jedi. So it was definitely a very cool collaborative effort. But to see those things, and Zahn himself actually said he thinks that the book and the series became better for it because now he had to mold something new and make it fit instead of just taking what was already there. So I thought that was, really, really cool. Yes, I own several copies of this book series.
I was going to say, Andre, is that book available at Heroes World?
I could definitely order it. Yes, you can. You can have the annotated version. But yeah, I've got the original hardcovers in first prints. I've got the first time they were printed in soft cover. I've got these new ones with the cool, the cool three covers that go together. So yeah, it's just so awesome. All right, so chapter 4, we are introduced to a Dark Jedi, and his name is, again, who knows how to pronounce this because these are Star Wars names. I'm going to give it a go. Joris Koboth. C''Boath.
I'll buy that.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Sounds good, right? Okay, so what again? I think in this particular chapter, we really get Thrawn's ability to read people and how he back and forth and deals with this master of the emperor's treasure trove, right? And we see how he describes all the facial tics and the tells and stuff. And I thought that was just such a cool moment between these two alphas, right? Like these are two guys that just won't back down and stuff. What did you guys find anything that was revealed differently about Thrawn once you read this chapter? You learn anything new or
He's very egotistical and he's very, very cold. Like he wanted to kill that guard, and he would have unless Koboth, is that what we settled on as his name? Koboth didn't stop him. And Thrawn didn't like this at all. He was out for blood after that happened.
Yeah. So he kind of has this snake-like coiled anger that we see ready to pop up that is totally different than the cool, calculated Thrawn we've seen in the first couple of chapters, right? So I thought that was very, very interesting. I'm like, ooh, this guy's got layers. He's suppressing something. What did you guys think of the idea of the Emperor having a storehouse, a hidden storehouse?
Just not at all surprising.
Not at all surprising.
Yeah.
There's secrets upon secrets, yes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I like the fact that it was an kind of like a known but not known fact. Like Pellaeon didn't know, the other surviving generals or whatever didn't know. So it was like, I like that this is something that Thrawn kind of knew, or was kind of forgotten knowledge. So I liked how that was put in. So the big reveal from this was the reason why Thrawn wanted a Jedi and a Jedi Master precisely. So the whole idea that the Emperor was guiding the Imperial fleet and the Imperial Navy, did that strike you as whoa? Like, what was your reaction to that?
I think my reaction was the same as what's it, Palian? Like,
No way.
come on, like really? You're not giving us any credit for? And then you think like, how bad do those troopers shoot? Right? You're like when the Emperor's not thinking about them, it's like, oh, maybe that does make sense, right? And you get, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, but you get that realization when they had a couple chapters where he's like, oh, dang it, yeah, it probably was the Emperor. Like, but it was sort of it was a deflating moment because you think, oh, I got this, I'm doing good. And it's like, oh, it's not me, it's someone else. It's like,
yeah.
Oh.
So, anything else to add to that? Is your guys' same impressions? Like, did you buy it? Did you think it was was it plausible to you?
Oh yeah, very, very reasonable after you think about it. Yes, knowing what happened, and as soon as the Palpatine fell in Empire, that's when everything went to hell.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I loved how they described it. It's like you might be thinking at first, you might be thinking, oh no, that doesn't make sense. But then how he describes it, and Thrawn's like, do you really think like you guys still had them outnumbered, outgunned, all this, and you still failed? He said you guys didn't have the will to fight. And I'm like, yo, that's actually that's pretty smart. The one thing that's really cool about that is that actually made it into video games, and it was called Battle Meditation. So I don't know, did you guys ever play Knights of the Old Republic?
Mm-mm.
Anybody play those video games? So one of the characters was a character named Bastila Shan, and that's where it got kind of codified as Battle Meditation. And she was a Jedi that would help the rebels. So that's when they had these old battles, that's what some of the Jedis would do. They had a specific ability. Some could do it, some couldn't, but you could enhance other people. So that was a really cool thing. So after that revelation, did it kind of change how you guys looked at the Empire and what we had seen?
No, not really. Still as ruthless as they ever were, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's hard to see like both sides as like good and evil. It's more just the Empire seemed to be comprised of people that were forced into their positions. And so some of them did so reluctantly, some of them did so because they wanted to, but some of them did so because they were forced to, like under threat of death or whatever. Yeah. And so it made more sense now knowing that they didn't always have full awareness of what they were doing or full control of what they were doing, because they wouldn't have all been as like engaged in the same issues, right? They wouldn't have cared equally. And I thought that was really, really interesting because like the CEO of companies, they all assume that all of their workers care just as much about the success of the company as they do, right? And then you sort of forget, like, no, that's not the case. These people didn't have this dream when they were like babies, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really, really cool because it sort of took away that indecision and like the unequal buy-in that people would have had in this empire. So I thought that was really, really neat. Kind of also a little bit of a cop-out, but still something that I think covered those bases.
Yeah, and like I said, it might not have been, you know, the greatest of idea, but once they ran with it, and they made it fit and work. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, the Emperor's controlling stuff, we'll leave it at that. There's all that descriptor about, no, think of what you're doing, think of this, look at where we are now, look at how young these people are, and so they made it fit, right? And it now adds to that plot point of why he needs that dark Jedi, which then leads into some of the other interesting tidbits. So not only do we get to meet a Jedi Master who's a dark Jedi, and we get this big reveal of the Emperor was controlling and once they lost, but we also get another big revelation in this chapter. And again, it shows the attention to detail and the man, what would you call it? Like the insane genius of Thrawn when it's revealed that Koboth is a clone. So
That's
Scott,
from all his.
yeah.
Sorry.
Did that catch you off guard when that was revealed? Scott, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was not expecting that at all. And yeah, just again, it gets into some of that, like, yeah, I don't know, like Megan said, like he's playing like chess, and everyone else is like playing like not even checkers, right? It's like we're playing with Matchbox cars, right? Like it's just like just he's like 4, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead, and even when he's not, he makes up for it so fast. I don't know where that was going or how. I was like looking at it again. I don't even remember how he got there. Like, I mean, like
he
it
got
just
there by remember it was the pronunciation of the name.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
isn't that huge? Could you imagine? It would almost be like somebody, saying, "Oh, what's your heritage?" And you say a Welsh name, but you pronounce it with not the right, inflection or whatever. And somebody says, "Well, you can't really be from there because you would have said tomato instead of tomato or whatever." That's like that level. You're like, what the hell? Like that was huge, right? But it goes back to, if this guy was a clone, he would never have heard how it was said, and we don't know what generation clone he was. This could be the 5th photocopy of Koboth, right? So we don't quite know at this point, but I think it's such a huge revelation. And again, as Andre reading this when he's 8 years after Return of the Jedi, and you get this clone, mind blown. Oh my God, the Clone Wars. Oh my God, this is, again, we get something that was off of a throwaway line, and then you're like, whoa, they can clone Jedi. Of course, now that we got the prequels, we know it's totally different. But at that time, reading this, you're just like, what the hell? There could be more of this guy around. Like, whoa! It's kind of wild. I almost wish that you could kind of go back in time and have that same feeling, like like almost like going back in time and listening to like Jimi Hendrix for the first time or whatever. You'd be like, whoa, what is this? Like, this is just madness. But now you're like, oh, I've kind of heard that before, and you're like, yeah, but back then you never did. Like, that was the first time somebody did it, and it's amazing, and everybody else has been adding to it, right? So yeah, I just found that was just super amazing, right? Any other notes for chapter 4? Did anybody else have anything that they
it showed Rook in action for the first time. How he kind of ran down that house, right, and ripped it to shreds in the matter of moments,
blasters and stuff.
Which shows how capable his race is, right?
And on no command too. It was almost just like a gesture from Thrawn, and it was just
a shoulder shrug, right? Like go get him,
go do it, And he just wow. So that was kind of scary and eye opening, as we say. So, anybody else?
There was one part in here that drove me crazy, and I'm looking at it right now. It's they get in and they're they're doing the mountain, and then he does this like throwaway paragraph where he's like, oh yeah, by the way, they searched for 7 hours and found the little thing they were looking for. And like, for all the description of the writing, like it was such a throwaway point that it's like he clearly didn't want to go into any more detail about like the mountain or the structure, or at least he didn't then. I don't know if in different books or whatever, but it was like, I was reading this and I was like, really? Like, all I get is they look for 7 hours and they found what they hoped they were looking for. Oh, great. Moving on. I was like, wow.
Yes. So I actually had written that down as a question. What do you think the other trinket possibly could be?
Oh.
Probably some form of art.
Could it be like a
Jedi
wayfinder?
statue or something? I don't.
Yeah, or like a wayfinder, like one of those Sith wayfinders or Jedi. Is that what they're called? Those triangular prism things?
Well, it could have
pyramids.
could have been a holocron or something. Now, remember, at this point, they did mention some of the other stuff, but I think they alluded to what they wanted to find, and they said that, we've been trying to make it, but nothing works for the scope and scale that they wanted it to work. And I think that was later revealed, I think, I want to say chapter 7 or 8. So we won't get into that just yet. But I think what's kind of revealed what one of the items is, and the secondary item comes up. So chapter 5. This one is a wow. Let's bring out everything Star Wars. Let's make sure we hit every cue. So we've got the action, we've got the adventure, we've got the smugglers, we've got some Jedi, and then let's not forget that Star Wars also deals with politics. And
we like politics down here in the United States.
Yes, like, boy, was this a fun. I found it a really fun read. So what did you guys think? So we've got some of the keynotes I wrote down is we meet our very first Bothan, right? Everybody remembers that line from Return of the Jedi. Many brave Bothans died to bring us this information, right? That's the plans for the second Death Star. So we, again, never saw them on screen, never had any idea. So we get to meet one, and I gotta say, I didn't really picture them as being
furry,
anthropomorphic dogs. That was my impression. I'm like, is this a schnauzer on two legs? Is that what we've got going on here? So, any other thoughts on the Bothans and stuff? It was basically, shall we say, I don't want to use the word like a measuring contest, but basically you've got Akbar and Bosch. How are we going to pronounce his name? Fey'lya. Yeah. The two of them are basically butting heads over the ideas and where the resources are going and who messed up now. I really like the fact that Han was in the middle of it, because you could just tell he's just like, I already said this, like, why aren't you listening to me? It's like, of course these guys aren't going to trust you. Admiral Akbar, you said countless that you want to rein in these smugglers, so give them time. They're going to need. So again, just the real world applications of it. Yeah, you're building a new republic. You need to open up ship lanes. You ain't got no ships because everything's a warship. Well, smugglers can do it. Well, let's pay them to go legit. Well, who's going to want to do that, right? So it was such a cool, little bit of political intrigue, right? And then you see Admiral Akbar kind of fumbling. Like, it was just like, oh, where's this? It's a trap. You didn't see that, Akbar? Come on.
Right.
Like, he kind of walked right into it and stuff. So I thought it was very, very cool. We see Mon Mothma. We get to see Leia in action and stuff. So it's all reminiscent to me of that scene in Return of the Jedi, where they're getting ready to attack, and they can't decide who's doing what or whatever. So again, it goes back to the familiar. He's painting a picture, but he's using a canvas or a shot that we've already seen, but expanding it and stuff. So I thought it was just brilliant. Han in politics. I'm sure he would want to be anywhere but that room. So
it seemed like he was trying to get out multiple times as well.
Multiple times.
Okay, let's go. Let's wrap this up. Okay, bye.
Trying to grab Leia by the hand and get out. So it totally fit. So yeah, I just loved it. I think that's one of the things. Like, sure, Star Wars politics stuff in the prequels was kind of boring and overshadowed, but this stuff here, especially how it's written in the book, instantly seems more. I don't want to use the word dire, but it's more important. You know what I mean? It's like you can really feel like, yeah, these guys, if they don't establish this, it falls apart again, and they lose system by system. If they go independent, then the Empire grabs them back or whatever. So they have to form this strong safety net, which I thought, anyways, I thought the political intrigue was good. Did you guys like that chapter? Like, was it, or did it slow down the pace too much for you?
I really liked it. It's I liked the political intrigue, and I liked that part. And so I usually like when there's like heavily established politicians. I like the person that comes in and sort of like stirs shit up a little bit. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm gonna like this Phalia person. Yeah. And then after I was like, I don't like this person. I don't like this weird dog man thing. I was like, I feel bad for it's a trap. Like I feel bad for him. But then like Han, him in the whole political thing, like Jesse said, I was like, he's the person to be like, guys, this could have been an email. Like we could have just like, let's just get this done. And so I thought it was really cool, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I like how his ability to change gears and write different stuff. Like, some writers can't write action, or they can't write dialogue, or they can't write so far, and we've seen each chapter be slightly different. Like he's showing us, he's like, hey, I'm ambidextrous. I can write with my left hand and my right hand. I can take these characters and stuff. And it shows you again how he's writing so many different characters. So again, I'm giving him a lot of the credit. The one thing I never really did was do a lot of research to say, well, who are his editors? Were they co-writing and stuff like that? But I think it's a fantastic work so far. So after chapter 5, right, we get to where we're going to stop is chapter 6. We're going to do this chapter. And chapter 6, oh man, this to me is where the book really gets going, because now it is just like old times, as they say. The guys are our team of heroes are on a mission. And here we go. So we've had 6 chapters, and we've had character introductions. We've had more world building. We've had a little bit of the politics. At this point, if you guys can remember, because I know you guys have read a lot of more of the book, what's your take so far of not only the pace, but the pace for being only at about 70 pages in? So that's where chapter 6 is. What do you guys think, if you can remember, what your thoughts are at that particular point?
At the beginning of 6 or at the end of 6?
No, by the time you've done the end of 6, so at this point you're like, it's. I would like to say it, and I shouldn't say it, but yeah, either or. Go before or after. I don't want to color what you're thinking.
At the end of 6, it seemed like we were pushed forward. We went to second gear. We're accelerating a lot quicker, and the characters, the story, the politics, everything you've been introduced to again, and now here's the actual story. It's the end of the first act, right? It's propelling us to the future, and the cliffhanger. Like, again, I finished the chapter and I immediately started the next one.
Yeah.
Didn't matter what I had to do. Didn't happen. If I had to make dinner, I was going to wait, read this chapter, and then make dinner. Right? Like it just propelled me forward even more.
All right, Scott.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I felt like even up to this point, you've gotten a lot, and there's a little bit of lore dump, right? Like, which is okay, right? Like, and some of it was like I said, the comfort food that we all knew, and some of it was new. But the pace, you could feel the pace kind of picking up, and I'll be honest with you, like chapter 5, I felt like Han, like I'm like, can I just get through this chapter? Like I get it. I know why we need it. I know we need the politic drama. We need, the dog and the squid
and the fish
at bar, right? But I was just like, oh gosh, like, okay, let me get through this. And then I was like, I was rewarded. Like usually you don't always get rewarded like that, but I was like, oh, I got what I want now, right? And we went back to like, the sort of the main characters, but also started to ramp up the drama and although I was also thinking like, come on, they're trying to separate you. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, like really? Like, you guys are smarter than this, right? Like, it's Luke, Han, and Leia. Like, you can't figure this out. Like, and then they were like, yeah, they're trying to split us up. Like, and then they did it. Like, but But
you know what I felt was really cool, because at first you think it's again really well written. It's like, oh, Chewie, maybe you should stay in, because part of this culture is they're going to touch you because they like giant furry guys. So Chewie, you don't want to be pawned. You stay with the Falcon. And then like, yeah, oh, okay, R2 will stay with you or whatever, because and it just seems kind of like natural. But then you get into the part where they're like, oh, hey, why don't we go see the market? And like, oh, it's an open market and stuff. And like, don't
It's a
split the
trap.
party. Don't split the party.
It's
The
true.
whole thing he's saying, don't split the. And then Luke's like, oh, I don't sense any animosity or whatever. And then it's like, yeah, let's
Classic.
just go. But
Don't
how
split the party.
cool,
Don't split the party.
it was just such. I think it was. Even though we saw it coming, how it was done was still very cool, and to see the characters snap back into kind of action and stuff, and like I said, that cliffhanger, it's all of a sudden you're just like, wow, okay, Leia can do that, and oh damn, what is Luke gonna do, knowing the stakes are now raised? That's his sister with twins, and that's Han, and oh, you can't bring your blaster, but you could bring your lightsaber. So he set up everything. So now you're chomping at the bit. Like Jesse said, there's no way you're supposed to stop at 6. But I guess that's why we chose to stop at 6, because that makes it for a very, very good conversation. So any final thoughts up until this point before we wrap up our book club talk about the first 6 chapters of Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn?
To stick up for those 3 at the end in chapter 6, they had no reason to assume that they were going to be attacked. So we saw it coming, but them in the world, they're like, we can leave our blaster behind. The New Republic's supposed to be taking over this planet. There's no aliens that are going to attack us. Luke, do you sense anything? No, I don't sense anything. Like, they had no reason to see the trap that we saw coming, which I really well written. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like adding on to that, even though we could see it, we wanted it to happen, because you knew that once they separated, like, stuff was going to go down, and you're just like, yeah, separate, hurry up. Yeah, go to the marketplace, do what you got to do, and like, let's see this happen. And I think that's true for parts of the book where sort of where Zahn is taking you and where he wants to take you, and then there's other parts that you're just like, whoa, like completely just blown away. Right? So this was one of those parts where you're like, yes, I see what you're trying to do, let's get there so we can get the action. And I think that's really, really neat. And later on in the book, when we talk about it more, then we get into those parts where we're like, had no idea. And I think that's like the contrast between those points where we kind of understand how stories work, and then we're just blown away. I think that's cool.
All right, Scott, any final thoughts?
No,
we haven't covered.
No, I totally agree with that, and it's like we're in need of an action sequence, right? Like, it's sort of like, and I think Zahn knew that, and he put it in, and yes, we're all like, it's a trap, but like, but we're gonna get some action, right? Like, we know, so it's well timed.
Very cool. All right, so I want to thank all of you for agreeing to read this book with me, and I want to thank the people who took the time to listen to this. We are going to try and kill this book off with another 2 more of these videos where we get to do in-depth talking about it and taking notes and enjoying it. And I hope that if you have found this entertaining or educational, that you pick up the book too, because even though we've talked about different things, we have definitely not described it well enough to detract from your enjoyment of this book if you choose to read it, and I highly recommend it. So guys, Scott, Jesse, Megan, thank you so much for joining me doing this. I look forward to our next talk, and I just want to leave with one question. I think I know the answer, but so we get it out camera. Are you guys happy that you read this book so far?
Yes, 100%.
All right. Very cool.
For sure.
It's always, sometimes you're a little scared when you like something a lot and you tell people, oh, come on, read it, or watch this, and they don't. But I'm very happy that you guys are liking it. So Thank you very much, everybody. So until next time, make sure you tune back in. Heroes World Online is going to bring you to all our online content, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, our website, and we've got crazy content coming out almost weekly or daily. There's almost something new every day, and we're going to continue doing that. This is our first book club, so hopefully you enjoyed it. I think this conversation's been great, and hopefully you'll join us for the next one. So thanks very much, and of course, we're going to leave with May the Force be with you.